Well, Daddy said, y'all need to go check on the fire over there, make sure everything's okay. So we get outside, and Arnold said, I'm driving. It's me and Arnold and Artie. Arnold said, I'm driving. Okay. So we get in the car. Well, Happy Cook was the policeman here. And of course, he knew that old red Ford with a humped up rear end on it. And we get down the road and get up to turn off to go to the sawmill, and there Happy sits down there a little ways, his lights off. Well, he sees us. He knew where we was going, so Arnold says, I'm going to show y'all how to outrun a cop. So we take off. This old Ford, we're going down the road, and Happy turns around. Here he comes. He's right behind us. His light just to go, and Arnold just to drive. And he said, here, switch with me, switch with me. I said, no, I'm not switching. I'm not going to get a ticket outrunning the cop. So we get down to the bottom of the hill to go into the sawmill. He pulls up beside us and stops us. He come up there and he shines the light in. He knew who was in there. He said, does anybody in here have a driver's license? He asked Arnold for his first. He said, no, sir, he didn't have one. He said, anybody have one? I said, I do. He said, well, you drive. Well, Arnold had to ride me back to the house. So we get back home and we start on the door. He said, don't tell Daddy. Don't tell him. I said, yeah, I am too. So I went in. I said, well, guess what? We got stopped by Happy Cook, so Mama had to go down and pay another fine. But then the funniest thing Kathy asked me to tell was, we had to go to church all the time, and this Wednesday night we had the carnival had come to town.
How old were you when you did that?
Okay.
How old were you when y'all did that?
Oh, we were probably 12 and 14. Somewhere along in there. Of course, Mother and Daddy, we pretty much raised each other. And but anyway, this Wednesday night, we convinced Mother we need to stay home from church because we had homework and tests or something. But the carnival had come into town over the park, and we always went on Friday night as a family. But the rule was, if you didn't go to church Wednesday night, you didn't go anywhere the rest of the week. Sorry. Now, Mama was pretty strict. So this particular night, well, after Mom and Daddy went to church, they left us there getting our homework. We had a quarter apiece, so we all went out to the carnival. We're going to ride, just a ride and get back home for more than Daddy got home. So we get on the Ferris wheel, and we make a round or two, and we get up the top, and it breaks. We're in the top seat up on the top of the Ferris wheel. Well, we was scared to death. We're looking around. They get everybody off, but they can't reach us. We're up too high. Well, they're working on the thing. We're worried because we knew it was getting late. Mom and Daddy's going to be home. They didn't know where we were at. So after a while, I looked down, and guess who I see walking around? Everybody had left but a few people. I see J.N. He's down there walking around. He's looking in the crowd. He was hunting us. Mom had sent him out there. I said, oh, my goodness. After a while, they get us down. He takes us home. I went in and told him I was just sorry. I was so sorry. And Mother didn't say a word. It's okay. Friday night comes, everybody goes in and gets dressed. And we get dressed. Mama said, y'all not going. Y'all done been to the fair. So she's going to make us stay home while the rest of the family goes to the carnival. Anyway, Daddy said, oh, come on. They didn't really mean nothing but that. It's okay this time. So anyway, we went.
How old were you?
We were probably 8 and 10, probably. We had just moved probably there in the house on the corner of 9th and Bowie. But anyway, and the next funniest thing, and I'll give this back to y'all, I don't want to bore you, but one night we went out there. We weren't allowed to go to the Fiddler's Festival thing because they danced. And Mother didn't want us to witness any of that. So we could go till it got dark when they really started dancing. We had to go home. So anyway, this particular night, we'd been out there all day, but Daddy comes in. He wanted to go out there and walk around a few minutes before the dance started. And he had on a khaki suit, shirt, and pants. And they said, now we're going to walk around and talk. And me and Arthur and Arnold was together. Y'all come back here before we go home when it gets dark, when they start fiddling. So we played and run, and after a while it began getting dark, and we heard the fiddles tuning up, and the crowd had got really big, and we go up there to try to find Mom and Daddy, and we can't find them. Well, they were looking for us, so we walked, and we thought a long time, so finally we said, we better probably go home. They've left us. So we were afraid to walk back through the park. If all y'all know where Mother and Daddy lived and where the park was, we was afraid to walk through the park, which was probably, what, 5 or 6 blocks? Maybe. Anyway, we was scared of the dark, so we walked back out to Houston Highway because it's lit up. Well, we walked out the Houston Highway, we get over there, and they had a miniature golf course. We all had a nickel or dime left, so we decided to stop and play some miniature golf on the way. So we played a game of golf, and then we've still got to walk home, so we walked all the way to town, up to the courthouse square. When we say where it's lit up, we scared somebody would kidnap us, because Dorleen had told us about kidnappers. And I don't know who we thought wanted us, but we thought somebody would. We come back down, and when we come down off of the courthouse square toward the school here, it's getting darker. Well, the campus, we always cut across to Mama's, our house, but the campus was really dark. So we walked down past the funeral home, all the way back down to the highway, 287, all the way back up to Mom and Daddy's house. And when a car come, we'd run and lay down in the ditch, and we'd cover Artie up. We didn't about to get Artie. she was little. We'd lay in the ditch and hide so they couldn't see us. Then we'd jump up and run. I don't know how many miles we walked, 2 or 3, to keep from cutting across the patch because we was afraid somebody would kidnap us.
Wait, one more.
Because they did all of that stuff, when Reggie and I came along and Mama Kate had us, there was the Hell Angel, and that Hell Angel was under your bed. And so when you went to bed that night, if you had been bad that day, the Hell Angel was coming to see you and get kidnapped, and then you'd just be missing the next day. I'm telling you.
Yes, cause of y'all stories.
Well, this is too much fun. Actually, I'm not here to give you any history. I'm other than this fact. Come June 20th of this year, Nathan and I will have been married 50 years. And so we have a save the date piece of paper. We're just trying to check and find out how many people think you might be interested in coming to share our celebration with us. And so if you're interested in that, come and pick up a piece of paper, and I want to be sure and get your name and phone number on my tablet, because my kids are saying, we got to have names and addresses and phone numbers, Mama. So that's what we're trying to do right here with this stuff. I've enjoyed it today. It's so good to see so many of you that I hadn't seen in a little while, and everybody's just getting a little older. I don't understand that. But we've got a lot of new ones coming along too, so yeah. Okay, that's all I have to say. Just wanted to let you know that I've got these papers, and come and see me sometime this afternoon before you go.
Before I go, I got to ask a question, because every reunion I go to, I'm still doing a search. Back around 1900, my great-grandfather lived in Elba, Alabama. His name was James. It's tricky work on a family tree, because his cousin James came to Alabama with him from Georgia, so it was James and James. And James had a sister named Martha. And Martha married James. So it was James and Martha, the sister of James, who married James, all in Alabama. And the next generation was George, and George was my great-grandfather. When George died, his wife's name was Ida Wise, W-I-S-E. And the Wises are all over Alabama. I've researched their graves. I've found the origin. I found the first Wise that came there. I've contacted the Wise family in Florida. But my grandmother, when my great-grandfather died, decided she didn't want to live in Alabama anymore. She had gotten a letter from Texas from a relative. Said, you need to come to Texas, work on the Grimes Ranch. And she told her kids, there were 5 of them, we're going to Texas. My grandfather, being the good Grimes that he was, bucks up and says, nobody's telling me where to go anywhere. I'm not going to Texas. So him and 2 of his sisters stayed in Alabama. And Ida Wise and the other siblings came to Texas. And we've lost her. There are no records in any county of Texas that I can find. 5 years ago at a reunion in Jacksonville, one of the gentlemen that passed away just a few years ago, and I can't remember his name, he was knowledgeable of some of the Oklahoma Grimeses. And the Oklahoma Grimeses came from Texas. And he said, I've heard the name Wise. I think she lived in northern Texas, and this guy she lived with ran a gas station. But I think they went to Oklahoma. So I've started searching Oklahoma and can't find anything there. There are no birth records, no death records, no marriage records, no census records. So if any of you ever hear the last name Wise, I'd love to know who they are and where they are. I'd like to find out, because my great-grandmother disappeared off the face of this earth when she left Alabama. We think she did like so many others. She came over, she met somebody, she married. And you know how marriages were back then? There wasn't always a preacher around. And it could have been one of those marriages. But we just don't know. So does anybody know anybody named Wise? Okay, I'll get y'all my card if you'll just mention my name. And my great-grandmother was Ida Wise that came from Alabama to Texas in 1900. Okay? We're trying to find just where she is. I'd love to restore her grave. I travel around restoring graves. That's what I do. So it's just a family mystery, and it's been one. My grandfather I never met. He died right after World War II, right before I was born. But my step-grandfather and my grandmother told me all about my grandfather, and they never mentioned my grandmother. And a great-grandmother, and as I grew up and got family history and started looking and found out who she was, come to find out my uncle had been doing the same search for about 10 years with the same results. And I've been all over this country looking for Ida Wise. So I'm going to leave a couple of cards. If any of you know of any Wises, contact me. I'll be back to Texas. Okay.
I don't have any stories, humorous stories, but I do want to tell, you know, the Grimes family has a lot of traditions. You may not think about it too much as you go along, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Roland Wright. My mother was Ruby Grimes, Frank Grimes' daughter, and so we were, you know, one of the things, and I'm trying to find right now where our original farm was. If you go out 69 on toward Love's Lookout out of Jacksonville, I'm pretty sure I know where the original farm was for Isaac Grimes and so forth, but if any of you have any knowledge of where that original farm was, I've been down to the county seat, and the county surveyor is willing to help us try to locate that old original farm. But you know, Texas is pretty flat and rolling hills, and where that original farm was, and a lot of you, my cousins, know we used to have our family reunions there at a place called Love's Lookout, where Highway 69 goes, and then it just drops off into a valley. And so I'm pretty sure those guys found some terrain similar to back in North Carolina where they came from, where there was hilly. But now this relates to mostly the guys. We used to have this test when you bought a new car. You know, you'd go to Love's Lookout when you came back home, and the deal was, the way you had to do this, in other words, from the top of Love's Lookout down to my grandpa's house was exactly 2 miles. So you'd take your truck or your car, put it in neutral, you know, get just right at the edge of the top of Love's Lookout hill, and then you'd kick it into neutral just enough to ease off the hill, and then you'd let it go. Now, if you had a truck or car that could make it all the way to Grandpa's driveway without putting on the brakes or without having to give it gas or anything, you know, you passed the test. And I can't tell you how many of mine failed that test, but basically as you went, it sounds like it's a pretty simple thing to do, but it took a matter of skill and driving and a good car. And so as you went down the hill, you'd go back up another hill and you through a few turns, but right before you got to the old church, or the old church where we grew up, there were 2 90-degree turns that usually killed you. And then you'd get to a long flat spot right in front of the church, and then if you could make it over the top of that next hill right beyond the church, you could make it all the way to Grandpa's house. So That's, that, exactly. Arnold may want to, now, I grew up with this tradition, just this is taught to me by this other generation. So I just accepted it, and all my cousins, we used to get down there and see if our cars or trucks could make it. But I've wondered who started that tradition among the guys. And I know my mother, some of the women too, because my mother would test out every car we got. Anytime we got a new car, she knew all the straightaways on and everything was a 2-lane highway then. And so she'd get those cars out and see and hit the floorboard and see how fast that car would go. Now, so I know there's some women in the Grimes family with some heavy foots too. But anyway, and this mainly was from the 5 Grimes brothers who all grew up in that family farm down there, that this was a tradition of checking out our cars or trucks to see if they were really worth their salt. Arnold, do you have anything to add? Okay.
I've had a request for Arnold to tell the story about the butane that you put in the school. Come on up.
Well, as all of you know, natural gas or propane don't have any smell. They have to add that. It's called calorie. And I'd have to go to Carty to get the propane in the transport. And it took a quart for 10,000 gallons to odorize that gas. Well, our transport wasn't that big, so they'd open that can and pour half in the hose before they hooked it up, and then set the other half up there. Well, it was bad. Smelled like rotten eggs. And so this boy who worked with me, he got to asking that loader about it, and he was telling him what it did. So in a little while I looked around and he was in the trash can, and he found an empty bottle of olive bottle. And he went out there and filled that up with it. Next day at school, we was going in, it was cold. And as we had radiators in there, steam heat. And we're going down there, he poured some behind the radiators. We went on into class, put our coats in the lockers, and about that time the fire drill went on. They wouldn't let us get our coats or nothing, and they didn't let us stop at the campus. We had to go across the road. And then here come the fire trucks, the gas people, everybody. Man, we was getting scared then. And they tested, we stayed out there in that cold until about 10, 11 o'clock. Was you going to school there then? And boy, we wouldn't tell nobody about it. And the other boy found that one of our buddies, of course, we had to tell somebody, and we told him he wanted some of it. He got some and put it in the principal's car. And that's how we got caught. But they tested, the gas pipes were good. They tested, they made sure there wasn't no gas leaks.
I'm not sure. Arnie told me to tell about the time. We used to walk from the house to the grocery store. It was like a mile. And we always put Arnie in the middle of us because she was little. And like I said, we didn't want anybody to kidnap her. So we'd walk along and find cigarette butts laying along the road. And I don't know if I remember this or not. And we'd pick them up. And we wanted to learn to smoke. So I don't know. Arnie probably needs to tell the rest of his story because I don't really remember what else happened. But oh yeah, and they had when you went to behind the grocery store down there, it was an open sewer ditch. Now it's all paved, And that's where we played all the time. We didn't know it was a sewer. It was just some water running down through there. And we walked the back roads and went around to the grocery store. And that's where we played. The colored town was up here on this side, and we played down here on this side of the store. So I'm not sure. Mama didn't, we just took care of each other, and she didn't worry about us too much. So anyway, and we had a great growing up life, though, and I wouldn't trade it for any other.
Do you guys ever come to North Carolina? I left the card there. Just come drop in the house and we'll put you up, okay?
By the way, that ditch is still running sewer water in it down there. If y'all look out these windows right over at that building, that furthest school building, that's where Uncle Jay and all Uncle TJ and Uncle Charles and Aunt Dorleen, Aunt Nora and Aunt Artith, and that's where me and Glenn, that's where all of us went to school. And Corby and Ruby, all of them went to school. That building's still there. And so it's been around a long time. Anything else before we go? Everybody register and get signed up. What's that? Oh, do we have to have a business meeting? Do we do that anymore?
Right out here on the corner. And all that gym over there wasn't there, and this building wasn't there, and all that was campus baseball field. And the baseball field, we played out, everybody played there, but we was probably in grade school. It was little. Well, this church was here then, so I don't know how long this church has been here.
I think they said around 1940, 40 to 50 or something.
But this church and that baseball field was where we all grew up. And, but I remember Brother Stuckey was a preacher there then.
All right, anybody got anything else? Let's see, let's get a bowl or something we can pass around and for.
We appreciate Reggie's church letting us come here and use this facility. So we're taking a little donation, and we're going to give that to Reggie for the lights and the gas and the water, whatever we've used here. We appreciate this a whole lot. We're going to meet back here again next year, the third Saturday in March. Put it on your calendar now so that you won't have any other plans, and tell all the family what a good time they missed.
All right.
Reggie, get your help.